Now that time travel is possible, we have been hired by Back to the Future Incorporated to market the time period around the 1800s when the colonization of Africa by European nations was at its height. We've put together a little video and an interview to highlight the most exciting parts and events of Africa during this time period. So sit back and enjoy this exciting adventure into the dark continent of Africa. Are you looking for adventure? Are you looking for excitement? Do you like exploring the outdoors? Have you ever met a slave? If not, then now is your chance. Where else could you experience almost every kind of terrain or exotic animal? If any of these things interest you, then we have the perfect vacation for you. Come experience Africa during the colonization period. We have the Sahara Desert. The savannas are grassland areas. The African rainforest. Lions. Zebras. Wildebeests. Giraffes. And cheetahs. Also, you could take home souvenirs of the vast natural resources Africa holds, such as gold, diamonds, sugar, or rubber. We have a very special guest here to have an interview with us. His name is Mr. Henry Morton Stanley, and he is an author and adventurer who explored and wrote about Africa during the 1800s and African colonization period. He has come to tell us how wonderful and mysterious Africa was during that time. Mr. Stanley? Pleasure.
My pleasure.
Have a seat. Meet Mr. Henry Morton Stanley. He is a great explorer and adventurer who lives to write and tell about his trip down into the interior of Africa and down the Congo River in the Congo. We brought him back to present to tell us how amazing Africa is. Welcome, Mr. Stanley.
It's really wonderful to be here. I really like this time period, but I have to say, Africa during the 1800s is truly amazing.
Wow, Africa sounds marvelous. So tell me, what is Africa really like?
Africa is a piece of paradise. You have roofless deserts, savannas, vast rainforests, and long winding rivers, and lovely land all enriched by valuable natural resources.
Sounds amazing. So what is the most important thing that attracts you to this amazing and beautiful country?
I just love the land and the fascinating scenery. I absolutely love to have a cocktail and stare at the golden sky when the sun is setting at the horizon.
Fantastic. So what really inspired you to write about Africa?
I was inspired by a missionary named Dr. Livingstone, who was working in Africa, and I was sent to search for him, and once I found him, I began learning his ways and ideas.
So you were inspired by the famous Dr. Livingstone. What books have you actually written?
My books include both fiction and nonfiction. My diary, How I Found Livingstone, and my account of journey to the source of the Nile, Through the Dark Continent, were my first books, and were reprinted several times. In Darkest Africa is my story of my expeditions and depicts, among others, pygmies who are still mysterious to the outside world.
Oh, those books are fabulous. I have read every one of them and absolutely adore them. If you want some real adventure from the wild beauty of Africa, you should read those books too. It's filled with every bit of information that your wildest dreams of African travels could entail.
Yes, of course, indeed.
So tell us more about the history of Africa. What countries colonized Africa?
The British, French, Germans, Spanish, Italians, Portuguese, and Belgians were the main ones to colonize Africa. You would be surprised, but Africa was actually the last country to be colonized. And during this time period, where I'm from, the colonization of Africa was just getting started.
That is a good point. This shows that if you were to come to Africa on the time machine during this time, that you could search Africa with all the countries that were exploring it for the very first time. Well, Mr. Stanley, we certainly enjoyed talking to you about the wonderful country of Africa. Thank you for sharing your stories of your journeys in the mysterious lands.
It is my pleasure, and I hope to see all of you in Africa around the 1800s sometime soon.
Thank you for joining us in this brief program of what Africa is like around the 1800s. If you have any interest in traveling in this time period, then contact Back to the Future Incorporated at 1-800-AFRICA. We look forward to hearing from you.
Tofe ya humange, tofe ya humange,
tofe ya humange, tofe ya humange.
Bongo bong ya humange, bongo si ya humange,
bongo bong ya humange, bongo si ya humange.